Power station.
Let me say that it's most unfortunate that it happened, and condolences to the family, and may the departed souls rest in perfect peace. So now, for me, listening to what's going on and the comments coming from various stakeholders, clearly this was pure negligence. This was just pure negligence, and people would have to pay the price for it. It has to be the price that will deter others from going on the same route in the future. There has to be discipline, the law must work, and there has to be some, you know, sanctity in the system. So now, what's the whole issue? Transportation of explosives. I strongly believe that every company engaged in such activities of which you, in your possession, you may have such items of which you carry from one place to the other, you would have what we call internal protocols, i.e., measures you put in place to ensure that when you move such items from location A to location B, it will be very safe and will not cause problems. Indeed, in an institution or an organization such as the firm, they would have a department primarily for safety measures. And there would have to be requirements that has to be met before a transportation of such explosion will be done. You would want to ask yourself, what were the requirements in those boxes? And were they checked before these explosives moved? You want to ask yourself, was the timing right? Who were the people that were supposed to be part of the process? And in case anything goes wrong, what these people must do to ensure that the protection of lives and properties is guaranteed. In this instance, Senna, you could clearly tell that they disregarded the public safety and they chose to do it because, for all you know, they've been doing it for a period of time. Now, you want to ask yourself, what was even the mental capacity of the driver? Was he fit to drive the car at that particular moment? And who were the stakeholders who were supposed to have been part of the transportation period? I understand that the police claim that they were there. But Senna, this is very laughable. Most useless comment ever. With explosives, the first people that you'd want to be part of would be the fire department. True or false? The fire service should be there. You can't carry out an explosive from one location to the other without having a fire tender with you or expert that in case anything goes wrong, they would be able to advise to make sure the lives and properties are protected. They were not part of it. And you have a whole police department claiming that the police did well, whoever that was escorting did well because they went around telling people to run away or to get out of the danger zone. So you ask yourself, our emergency system, Senna, how does it work? How does the emergency system in Ghana work to a point that in a situation where there's danger, people would have to run on foot as if we are in the Stone Age era, telling people that get out, get out, get out because the whole area is about to blow up. Now, moving on, so now, when the incidents happened, according to reports, the driver and the so-called policeman went around telling people that they should do what? Run for their lives because something worse is about to happen. And for me, that is where the major problem is. So now, immediately it happened, the first thing that should have been done was to call 911 or your emergency line number. True or false? That's the first thing you do. You call for a backup. And also you call the company that this is what has happened, and whatever measures that they have, as soon as possible, they put in to make sure that people are protected. But in this instance, nothing whatsoever happened. They had no measures. Ideally, you will call 911 or you call whatever emergency line center, and then whatever, either NADMO or whatever, would broadcast a general text message that people should evacuate that particular area because there's likelihood of an explosion. And we didn't have any form of emergency personnel who could drive there and evacuate the people or alert the people. There was nothing like that. So it was each one for himself and God for us all. The period of which the accident happened, the first accident happened, and the major explosive that took over 10 people's lives happened, you could tell that if we had the right structures in place, we could have averted it. Because the emergency, the first responders would have been there on time, they would have zoned the area, and nobody would have run closer thinking that they could go and take videos. Who in his right frame of mind, knowing very well that you have the security operatives there, and you will say they are going to bypass them to go and take video. Nobody will do that. But were they there? No. They were not there. And as a result of that, out of ignorance, people being inquisitive to go and take videos, they went there and they lost their lives. So in breaking this thing down, Senna, who is to be held responsible for it? The company? What arrangement do they have with the security apparatus, i.e. the police and the fire service or any other stakeholders involved when it comes to the management of such risky arrangements? All these people, were the fire service contacted? Did the police do their background check and certify that this explosive is good to go? Did they check the timing to make sure that it is clear for this to go at this particular moment? Was it a busy time? Did they have the motorcade in front and behind? And all the other measures that have to be put in place. People would have to answer to these critical questions. Because there's one thing we know for a fact, that the lives lost would never come back. But what we can do is to avert or prevent it from happening in the future based on the decisions we will make today. The president giving $100,000, etc., it's much ado about nothing. That is not what we are looking for. What we need is to see the law working. The law must work, and henceforth the measures that we have to put in place to make sure that we don't fall into such situation again. But the fire service department, Senna, it's time we look at how they operate. How many minutes do they have to respond to an emergency? Is it 3 minutes, 5, 10, 20, 30, etc.? We need to be able to establish all these things. And if it is not that rapid, how do we put in measures to make sure that we would have a system that would be able to move in quickly and swiftly to always ensure that lives and properties are protected? It cannot be business as usual. Because with this situation, Senna, it can happen to any individual. It could be a gas station, you're going to buy petrol, and out of negligence of somebody, it can go for any other direction. It can be anything from somebody's home, a gas or whatever. But the thing is, in case such a calamity happens, what will be the reaction of the state apparatus in charge of ensuring that lives and properties are protected? So we have a very long way to go. We need to be very technical about this. Anyone found culpable, the law must deal with that person ruthlessly. If they have to go to jail to serve as a deterrent to others, they must do it. It is not monetary here. It's good, to support the family, whatever, which is great. But the core essence of this is to ensure you put in preventive measures so that it doesn't happen in the future. And that is what we must look at.
So first thing you want looked at is the protocol that is currently in place, because it seemed from what you're saying, from listening to you, the impression is that, well, the people who were driving the explosives, the so-called escorts, there was no plan in place for this kind of an emergency. There was nobody in there who knew what to do in case something like this happened. So you want a review of the protocol?
Yes, sir. That is the first point of call. The internal arrangement before such items could be moved from A to B. We need to review that. And that will be the beginning of establishing who did what, who should have done what, and what must be done in the future. That is the first thing we have to do, the internal structures. And that internal structures will link to other stakeholders that should or may have to play certain role before such an action is taken. That is the first point of call. So we would want to know what the internal protocols or mechanisms are, and then let's review it and establish whether it was followed to the letter or otherwise.
And then you're then talking about the emergency response. From listening to you, it seems you are clear in your mind that we had adequate time between the first accident to the explosion to be able to contain this.
That is the crux of the matter. That is the crux of the matter. Okay? When the first issue happened, how long did it take for the second one to happen? And between that period, what happened? The driver called the emergency number to inform them that this is what has happened? Did the driver call the company to alert them that this is what has happened? Whoever got that information, how quickly did they relay to ensure that the right people get there to avert what happened? Because from all indications, the driver was aware of what was about to happen. And that was the reason why he got out of his car and started running to alert people that run for your life. So he was not ignorant. He was not ignorant. But what are the internal mechanisms saying? That when it happens, what is the first thing that the driver is supposed to do? So we need to look at that period. If our fire responders or the emergency responders couldn't get there within the stipulated time of, let's say, 3, 4, 5 minutes or 6 minutes, then we don't need them. We don't need them. It's a failed institution. And I understand it took even more than 10 minutes. How? How? In today's world, there's definitely something wrong, Senna. There's something definitely wrong. And you have what's his name? Inspector Kofi Fori. Is that the name?
ACP. ACP. Assistant Commissioner of Police. Kofi Fori.
That man must be fired. He's a total embarrassment. I listened to his interview, of which he was praising the police. You sit there as ACP, whoever you think you are, with all your training, all the experiences that you have, and in your mind, you think that this was the best approach, best practice as an ACP. You think that this is your best approach. This is the best approach, of which you are applauding the police for doing something better. And he got paid with the public funds. And this is the output. This is his output. An issue of this nature, of which you should have had your emergency lines working, your fire service being there, and all stakeholders that could have averted. No. For you, the fact that the policeman was on foot running, telling people that run for your life, yes, that's a pass. So if in the mind of leadership of the police department, this is how they see it, so now, what's the future? Such a mediocre standard, accepted practice, that the fact that a policeman ran around to tell people that get out, it means that we have to applaud them. How about the institutions that were supposed to have known better and done the right thing? Did the police themselves call for a backup? And how swift was it? These are the things we would want to know. But don't come out here and praise such a mediocre, irresponsible, and negligent act. You don't do that.